Hello folks, this is Patrick, Comics and Collectibles, and I am continuing the series on this alien carnageized 3D model. I am also continuing the series on this quirky Carnage bust right here, but these are two separate video series. So let's do the alien first, then I'll get back to Carnage. What I have done since the last video is, I'm trying to get my light adjusted here because I'm in my garage and it's kind of dim in here. Okay, I hope that will work right there. I have, where's my pointer? Pointer. I have done a lot of filing and sanding. Hold on, let me turn him around. Try not to tear up the tail. It's right there, and that thing is really fragile. And I am really clumsy around statues, especially. So I've done some filing and sanding right here where I join the torso to the legs. This right here is epoxy clay. That is epoxy clay right there. I did this right here to strengthen where the tail keys into the body, because I added some epoxy resin to the tail and that's put a lot of weight on it. So I didn't want it to cause any problems here. I also need to strengthen this part right here some more. As a matter of fact, I think this is the part that I broke accidentally and I glued back together. I have to look at that. It could be, hold on, let's check that out. Yep, that was the one. So I definitely need to strengthen that some more, especially with all that weight on it. Now, mind you, the tail is not full cut. Take two. Now, mind you, the tail is not filled up with resin. There's only a little bit just coating the inside of it, but it still adds a considerable amount of weight to it. Let's see what else. Let's spin him around. Okay, yeah, I still need to do a little fine tuning. Where's my pointer? I need to do some fine tuning around here. That right there is some epoxy clay also. Wait a minute. Hold on. I'm sorry. I was wrong. That's epoxy clay. The gray stuff, that's epoxy clay. This here is the air dry clay. That's hair dry. Okay, that is air dry clay. And I put some epoxy glue over it to harden it. Let me see. I did not want this to be permanent. That's why I used the clay instead of hold on, let me clarify. That's why I used the air dry clay here instead of the epoxy clay. In case I wanted to remove this for any reason in the future, I wanted it to be removable. And that clay is easier to remove than, okay. I got to be more specific. The air dry clay, the white stuff, is easier to remove than the epoxy clay. Okay, now got that straight. So that's air dry clay. That's epoxy. That's epoxy right there. Epoxy clay, yes, and I'm sure this time. I just got a new batch and it's more white. For some reason, it's whiter. Maybe because this stuff here was really old. I had this for over a year. I don't know. Anyway, so I've joined that together and these are joined permanently. Let's see, what else? Spin him around again. Hardly get a view from this side. Let's go ahead and get a good shot right there. Okay, the head will not be attached permanently because I'm going to try to make a Carnage head or Carnage portrait for this project. So I want to be able to exchange them. The arms are not permanently attached, and I want to show you something on these arms if I can get it loose. Hold on, I'll be back. All right, the arms are not permanently attached. In case I ship this or store it in the future, I want to be able to remove these arms because, as you can see, the fingers are really thin and fragile. So I would rather remove them from the figure and just like, wrap them up in bubble wrap or whatever to protect them. So I want them to be removable. Now, what I have done, I wanted to use magnets on this. I really did, but I don't think it would have worked out too well for me with my experience when it comes to magnets. So I use some steel rods. And if you have a Dremel, where is it at? Where did I put them? Okay, I don't know where I put them. But if you have a Dremel kit, you get the little bits. And that's what these are right here. On the end of this, there's that little sanding piece for sanding stuff. And that's all this is. So it's a pretty strong and sturdy rod. I had to cut off about 1/2 inch because let me see, how can I say this? In my infinite wisdom, I glued the leg on, not thinking that I had to drill a hole through the epoxy resin that's inside the body. I had to drill a hole in that so that I could insert this. And because I can't get a straight line of sight going into it, I drilled at an angle, and now I can't really get this off in there. So I had to cut off part of it. So it kind of gets off in there a little bit. I may have to try to drill off in here some more, or maybe just, I don't know. I'll figure that part out. But anyways, no big problem. I'll deal with it. That's what this 3D modeling stuff is about, figuring things out, trying to resolve problems and issues. So I think that's it for this one, folks. Let me see. I talked about the tail. So he's about to go into the paint shop right there. Probably today. I'll probably get him done today, get some primer on him, and do some finishing touches on all the prep work with the clay and that stuff, and then prime him, and then start doing the fun part, the painting. And before I get to Carnage over there, this was my B project and that was the A project. But if you've been keeping up, I've had some issues with this, some issues I caused myself, I guess some self-inflicted wounds. But I'm going to now make this my A project. That's going to be the primary. And I want to take my time with this. I don't want to rush trying to figure out things. So let me go ahead and wrap this one up and get on over to that Carnage. So as always, folks, thank you for watching this video. Thank you for supporting the channel. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. I have surpassed 900 subscribers and I am pushing to get to 999. So I hope you stick with me until I get there. That was my goal for 1920. That was my goal for 2025. We have about 5 months left in the year, and I need to get the rest of those subscribers so I can reach 999. All right. Thanks again, folks. Bye. And I think I already got my thumbnail earlier. Just in case, man, I wish the arm was still on. Okay. Hold on, I'll be back. All right, I'm back. And this is what I was talking about earlier. Because this rod will not allow the arm to go in straight, it's created a gap right there. See it right there? So I'll have to continue trying to figure something out for that. All right, but this is supposed to be the thumbnail. Let's see. Let's get this thumbnail so we can move on to the next one. All right, I'm sure I got a good shot somewhere in there. He looks better from the other side. All right, thanks, folks. Bye.